What's your first take before we get to this executive order as to the likelihood in these accusations that this Chinese company and others are often mentioned, but in particular Huawei is spying on various countries where it operates?
You know, I think it's a political ploy by the Trump administration, to be honest with you, Wilfred. There are 6 significant manufacturers of what's called 5G gear. 2 of them are China-based, 4 of them outside the country, obviously. And if one of them is hackable, if one of them is corruptible, you have to assume that all 6 of them are hackable and corruptible. And what concerns me and annoys me is that the trade negotiations with China have moved into the emotional stage as opposed to the substantive one. Huawei and ZTE are substantially the same as the other 4 competitors. If you take them out of the marketplace, there'll be an emotional price paid by China. They're very fond of these companies. They're very committed to the 2 of them. And you'll certainly see profit increases in the other 4 if you take these 2 off the market. But there's nothing to suggest that the technology of Huawei and ZTE is materially different than the technology of the other 4.
But Leo, I mean, it's not just the US, and therefore it's not just the Trump administration that's making these accusations. In just the last week, the UK, for example, has been very loud and clear. There's been other countries as well that have weighed in on this. And just taking a step back and using the UK as an example, they haven't been clashing with China and trying to negotiate a trade war in the same way. So they don't have that incentive to make this up, if that's what they're doing, as the US does. So how do you explain that?
Well, it's not obvious that they don't have an agenda here, Wilfred. The other 4 are Ericsson, Samsung, Fuji, and Nokia. We don't know what relationships other countries have had with these 4. Some of them are internal, obviously. And I just think it's part of a larger political ploy to sort of politicize the trade negotiations that are going on. We should all be concerned about privacy. We should all be concerned about corruption of delivery systems. But there's nothing to suggest to me that somehow ZTE and Huawei stand out as being potentially greater offenders than the other 4 might be.
Well, I mean, clearly the administration disagrees with you. So if they do move forward, Leo, with this sort of executive order, what would that look like? How much disruption would there actually be? How much sharing is there between Chinese and U.S. telecom companies?
Well, Sarah, I don't think it's that they disagree with me. I think they have a political agenda in trade that sometimes overwhelms the technical realities. From a vantage point of the United States, this would be like China putting hard stops on the Boeing company. We don't have state-owned enterprises here in the United States, but we have companies like Boeing that are integral to our economy. Huawei and ZTE are very important to the economy of China. And when you go after them, you go after China itself. And I just think that it's Bob Lighthizer and Steve Mnuchin's agendas, Wilfred, our Commerce Secretary. I think that it's just a ploy. I don't think it's a particularly well thought out ploy, but it will have some effect. Certainly these companies are well received, as I said, by China.
Leo, different question. Regardless of this latest particular issue, the likes of Huawei and ZTE have drastically improved the quality of their technology and the products they make in the last decade. Have you been surprised how quickly they've developed, and how do you think they've managed it? Have they copied, stolen IP?
Oh, I think they probably have had some borrowing, so to speak, of IP. I think when you're an SOE, Wilfred, you're able to grow and be entrepreneurial to degrees that are not necessarily common to the public companies outside of China. And I think it's simply the nature of the beast in China. Their technology capabilities are just second to none right now. And Huawei and
better than the
ZTE,
US?
Certainly as good as anything we find here in the United States. Of the 6 manufacturers of gear, 5G gear, Wilfred, none of them would be considered a true U.S. company. It's Fuji, Nokia,
I'm sorry to just belabor this.
Ericsson, and Samsung. No, please, go ahead.
Hadn't the CIA, FBI, and NSA all come out and told American citizens not to buy Huawei and ZTE phones because of spying? I mean, do you think it's all political?
I don't think it's all political. I think it's substantially political. Again, if one of these systems is compromisable, you have to assume that all 6 of the systems are compromisable. I don't downplay the risk of spying. I'm simply saying that to highlight ZTE and Huawei without similar scrutiny of the other 4 manufacturers and their capabilities is a little short-sighted.